I'm for reindustrialization, but boy, it's a tough thing to do. You have to do it carefully.
I think Biden's industrialization strategy was to industrialize more government. I mean, a lot of jobs created in government during Biden.
America brought back a chips industry in 18 months.
And what was the announcement this week? That a chips maker from Taiwan is opening up a massive operation in Arizona.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Common Thread, where we don't just report the chaos, we break it down and make sense of it. And today, it's a beautiful day to watch Scott Jennings walk calmly into another CNN ambush and torch it with nothing but logic and facts. Once again, Scott sat across from a panel of hand-wringing, pearl-clutching pundits who treat economic policy like a group therapy session. The topic? Tariffs. And while the others clutched their pearls and whined about instability and feelings, Scott stayed grounded, focused, unbothered. You could practically feel the temperature rise as he dismantled their every argument without even raising his voice. The panel, bless them, came loaded with emotional what-ifs and slippery slope doomsday fantasies. Jennings, he brought receipts. While they ranted about inconsistency and chaos, he pointed out the long game. Trump's tariff strategy isn't about day-to-day headlines. It's about leverage, negotiation, and restoring balance after decades of one-sided global trade deals. But that kind of long-term thinking is foreign territory in that studio. Here's what's really going on. The media wants you to believe that Trump's economic strategy is random because they're terrified of what happens if it works. If tariffs succeed, it doesn't just validate Trump. It exposes the fact that they've been wrong for decades. The fear isn't about jobs or the economy. It's about losing control of the narrative. And let's be honest, Scott Jennings represents everything they hate. Calm confidence, uncomfortable facts, and a refusal to bow to their spin. He doesn't match their hysteria. He doesn't blink, and that's why they spiral, because nothing threatens a fragile agenda like someone who simply knows what he's talking about. So sit tight and turn the volume up, because this is Scott Jennings at his finest. He's not just debating, he's performing intellectual surgery on live TV. This isn't just a segment, it's a masterclass in how to destroy nonsense with nothing but clarity. Let's go.
I don't think he's looking for the long term. I think tariffs need to be used in a really, really surgical way to create space for industry to happen in the U.S., but that requires an industrial strategy. We haven't seen any coherent industrial strategy from this administration yet. Now, like him or not, Biden had an industrial strategy. It's not just about tariffs. You've got to convince business, okay, what's the competitive strategy here? How are we going to train workers? How are we going to work with allies? You have to build capacity. Is Europe going to want to be in supply chain alliances with us? Maybe not, because, we're talking about slapping tariffs on Europe too. I just don't buy it over the long haul. I'm for reindustrialization, but boy, it's a tough thing to do. You have to do it carefully.
I think Biden's industrialization strategy was to industrialize more government. I mean, a lot of jobs created in government during Biden.
America brought back a chips industry in 18 months.
And what was the announcement this week? That a chips maker from Taiwan is opening up a massive operation in Arizona. What was the auto industry announcement this week? That Honda is putting a plant in Indiana. $1.7 trillion already in announcements from this administration on investing in the U.S. economy. I agree with you, what you said earlier. Reindustrializing, juicing American manufacturing, it is a worthy goal. And that is the mission of the tariff plan. He strongly believes in tariffs. And if they're slapped on over a long period of time, we'll see if he's right.
I guess
but the governor,
it's one tool.
The governor is exactly right about it.
You guys are defending a tariff strategy that's actually not being put in place.
It's not a strategy.
The tariff strategy that you're describing is Trump saying, I believe in tariffs, carte blanche, let's just put them on there. But what he's actually doing is saying tariffs one day, no tariffs the next day. Tariffs one day, no tariffs the next day.
He's trying
if he really believed in what you were saying, he would just stick with his strategy, he's not doing it.
He's trying to find the sweet spot with countries and industries. And he said today there'll be no more extensions past April.
I just have to say,
I'm not even seeing that happening. I mean, he didn't say, okay, we're going to take tariffs off China and Mexico for these specific things. He said, we're going to just do another month.
Yeah, it's a haphazard approach. I want to say that I think there's a lot of things at this table that people agree with. I don't want fentanyl in this country. I want it to be stopped. I don't take it lightly if one person dies from it or another person dies from it if it comes out from the country. But I also think that when you are applying and you're looking at the totality of circumstances, you can't just swing a pendulum back and forth with the American economy.
Let's be honest. I totally understand why Trump's trade strategy might seem chaotic at first glance, especially if your only exposure to it comes from cable news sound bites and social media rants. The average American has been fed a steady diet of simplified narratives for years. Tariffs are bad. Free trade is good. Inflation is Trump's fault. That kind of surface level thinking makes it easy to dismiss what Trump is doing as reckless or impulsive. But that's not what's happening here. What's happening is calculated pressure, a deliberate layered negotiation tactic aimed at flipping the balance of power in global trade. And most of the people critiquing it, they wouldn't recognize a long-term strategy if it hit them with a tariff on Canadian lumber. See, here's what the panel misses entirely. This isn't about emotional decision-making or moment-to-moment market vibes. This is about leverage. Trump understands something most career politicians don't. Real negotiation means applying heat, not holding hands. When he slaps on a tariff, it's not to punish. It's to provoke a response. It's to create just enough discomfort to get countries back to the table. That's what happened with Mexico. That's what happened with China. And if the panelists took a breath between outrage cycles, they'd realize this is how deal-making works in the real world, not the newsroom fantasy land where everything has to look neat on a chart by Friday. And let's talk about this obsession with consistency. You know, who else loves consistency? Bureaucrats. People who follow rules even when the rules don't work. Trump's not married to a static playbook. He adapts based on results. That's not chaos. That's leadership. You don't build leverage by announcing every move 3 months in advance. You build it by keeping your opponents off balance and ready to deal. That's exactly what he's doing. So when someone on the panel starts whining about how this doesn't feel like a strategy, just translate that in your head to, this isn't how we've always done it. And you know what? That's the point. Because how we've always done it has left American workers hanging, industries gutted, and our global rivals laughing all the way to the bank. This isn't a trade tantrum. It's a strategic overhaul. And if you're feeling a little unsettled by that, good. That means it's working. Change isn't supposed to feel comfortable. It's supposed to rattle the status quo, shake loose the bad habits, and force the people in power to rethink everything they thought they knew. That's what we're witnessing. And whether you love Trump or hate him, you've got to admit, this is what real, unapologetic change looks like. And here's the thing. While the CNN panel clutches their pearls over short-term volatility, average Americans are more concerned about long-term survival. Families don't care about clean graphs. They care about keeping their jobs, affording groceries, and seeing factories reopen in their towns. They don't want polished platitudes from pundits. They want results. Trump's strategy, messy as it may appear to media elites, actually speaks to the working class pain that's been ignored for decades. That's why it resonates. That's why it matters. So let the critics mock and nitpick from their Manhattan studios. Out here in the real world, we don't have time for symbolism. We're chasing substance. Trump's not playing politics for applause. He's fighting a trade war to win. And if the cost of that is rattling a few talking heads along the way, so be it. Because at the end of the day, it's not about making pundits comfortable. It's about making America competitive again.
Dan, you all are saying it's a strategy, but what it feels like, and we talked a lot about feelings before November 5th, that the people felt like the economy wasn't good, even though the numbers said it was good. What we're saying is that people are feeling like the economy still isn't good, and the numbers are not good because the Dow is going down. Because you slap a tariff on in 1 hour and 18 hours it's later. That feels unstable. It doesn't feel like a strategy. I hear you. You all think there's something there, but I think in short order, the American people are going to say, and to just callously say, people are going to lose their jobs. I didn't ever hear that before November 5th. People are going to lose their jobs. Americans, are you okay with losing your jobs? You be the judge.
Bill Clinton said it really loud in the early 90s when he said we're going to get rid of 13% of the workforce.
I was 8 years old, so I can't really say
that's a reality.
But I'm talking about now that I'm an adult.
Let me just play what Republicans in Congress are hearing from their districts and what they're saying about all of this.
Almost every industry in Kentucky has come to me and said it will hurt our industry and push up prices of homes, cars. And so I'm going to continue to argue against tariffs.
Should he back off of it if it starts to hurt your constituents?
When we start losing, you back off. You know, there's such a thing as a strategic retreat. At the end of the day, I think we have more leverage than any other nation, but we got to be smart, and we don't have all the leverage.
Maybe Tom Tillis is right. This was a retreat. I mean, he backed off. He absolutely backed off.
There is no question that inside the Republican Party, there is some resistance to this. I mean, that's just a fact. And there are issues, particularly on trade issues, where Trump is not an orthodox conservative. He didn't run on it. He has been very open about it. Some of the party supports him, some don't. In my home state of Kentucky, both Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul, not often aligned on issues, are both against it. You hear this from some corners of the party, but Donald Trump believes in this. And I suspect there is going to be some tariff strategy over the entire first term. And
Do
the
you
people.
think, but Scott, I hear what you're saying Trump believes in, but do you think it's a good idea?
Right. Yeah, that's my question.
I trust the president to deal with Canada and Mexico.
Okay, but do you
on the
think it's a
issues
good
that he
idea
thinks
to
are important.
slap 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico and then take them off and then put them back on and take them off?
And what happens in a year? What happens in a year? I'm curious
Everybody yell at me, then I'll
I'm
answer.
not yelling at you. Cut it out. Don't do that to me.
Everybody
Don't
go,
do it.
and then I'll answer one at a
Don't do
time.
it, Scott. Don't do it.
I'm gonna let Ashley
Don't
handle
do it. As your colleague and friend, that we have these debates because we actually care about this country. I am curious. Okay, if this is the strategy, but we've been saying it's only 40 days. Well, what happens when it's 40 months? Like, what happens when the strategy hasn't paid off? When is the intervention point?
That's your prediction. Well, the interventions in American politics are elections.
So, let me see if I've got this right. According to the CNN panel, the reason the economy's facing turbulence is Trump's tariffs. That's the hot take now? Seriously? Because if that's where the conversation is headed, I've got a few follow-up questions. Like, what exactly was the excuse for the last 4 years of sluggish growth, wage stagnation, and middle-class shrinkage before Trump started slapping tariffs on anything? Where was the booming economy they kept promising? Oh, right, it didn't exist. We had bureaucratic mismanagement dressed up as policy and media spin disguised as strategy. Look, I'm not saying tariffs are a magic fix, but let's not pretend that the pre-Trump approach was working. For decades, America bent over backward to appease foreign markets while gutting its own workforce. Trump? He's disrupting that cycle. He's not here to make the elites comfortable. He's here to make global trade work for American workers again. And guess what? That's not going to look smooth and pretty on a chart. It's going to be bumpy. It's going to make the suits on these panels nervous. And that's exactly why it's necessary. And let's talk about that panelist who practically broke into a monologue. What if this goes on for 40 months? Calm down. We're not even 2 months in. You don't build a global economic reset in 45 days. This isn't microwave governance. It's long-form negotiation. Trump's approach is measured, strategic, and yes, sometimes deliberately erratic. But it's not erratic for no reason. It's calculated unpredictability. It keeps adversaries guessing, and it forces them to take our demands seriously. Meanwhile, the media can't handle it. They're used to presidents playing defense, not offense. So when Trump turns the pressure up, the same people who ignored decades of manufacturing collapse suddenly find their voice. Oh no, someone might lose a job. Where was that energy when China was hollowing out our industrial towns? And here's the part. No one on the panel wants to touch. Trump's tactics are already forcing conversations global elites were happy to avoid. The moment tariffs go on, foreign leaders pick up the phone. They have to, because whether they admit it or not, the U.S. still holds the biggest consumer market in the world. That's leverage. And Trump is one of the few politicians actually willing to use it. Not for short-term applause, but for long-term economic sovereignty. So the next time a CNN panel melts down over economic chaos, ask yourself who benefits from the old system. Who wins when the U.S. lets cheap foreign goods flood the market, killing domestic industries in the process? Because it sure as hell isn't the American worker. Trump may not speak like a polished bureaucrat, but he fights for results. And that's exactly why they fear him. Let the common thread keep peeling back the noise, because behind every dramatic panel reaction, there's a deeper truth they don't want you to see.
Economic strategy is not just tariffs. You've got the Congress working on the reconciliation package. You are going to try to see some cuts in federal spending, make permanent the tax cuts, changes in energy policy. In his mind, it all works together. And you know when you get a report card at the next election.
Can I ask you, Ronna, really tomorrow could be a very big, maybe a very bad day economically. What are the markets expecting?
Downturn for sure. I mean, the jobs cuts, the sense that consumer spending is buttoning up, the sense that businesses, because of the uncertainty, are pulling back. You know, I agree with what's been said about fentanyl, but let's put things in perspective. 0.2% of fentanyl coming across Canada. Guess what does come across Canada? Lumber, energy. I spoke to a home builder that said, you know, we want to put a stop on building right now. We're going to pull back at a time when we have a housing shortage because we don't know what the lumber costs are going to be. Those are the kinds of things that business does not want to hear. And by the way, this is even if Kamala Harris were in office, this would be a very delicate moment economically. We are 6 years overdue for a recession if you discount the COVID blip, which I would because of the pandemic. This is not a time to be playing fast.
Oh, wait, she talked to a builder? Well, I guess we can throw out the entire economic debate now. Call off the experts, forget about global data, dismiss supply chain analytics, because apparently one contractor has spoken. This is what counts as airtight analysis now? That right there is peak CNN panel logic. When facts don't go your way, toss in a personal anecdote and pretend it's economic gospel. The left loves emotional appeals because they sound good in clips, even if they don't hold up in reality. And what's the reality? It's not about feelings, it's about structure. For decades, the US has been dragged through lopsided trade deals, watching our industries hollow out while foreign economies cash in. Trump didn't invent the problem, he's just the first one in years to actually fight it. His strategy? Rebuild the industrial core, use tariffs as leverage, and stop pretending that globalism works for the working class. These talking heads can mock it all they want, but the strategy is clear. Bring back manufacturing, invest in homegrown production, and protect American leverage. Remember when we had energy independence under Trump? Yeah, that wasn't magic, it was policy. But we handed that away to chase windmills and unicorns to keep the activist base happy. And now we're paying the price. We're dependent again, not just on oil, but on materials, parts, and technology we used to make right here. The problem isn't ambition, it's surrender disguised as pragmatism. And let's not kid ourselves about Canada either. Behind that friendly handshake and maple syrup smile is a country that's been gaming the trade system for years. High tariffs, sneaky restrictions, and now they're suddenly the moral authority on economics. Please, the US has been the global trade punching bag long enough. It's time we fought back. And yeah, that fight gets messy, but it's better than rolling over. Now, here's the big picture. Trump's trade war isn't about headlines. It's about resetting a system that's been broken for decades. He's confronting the hard truths most politicians avoid. And sure, that makes for good cable drama, but beneath all the panel bickering is one undeniable fact. We're finally trying something different. And that scares people. Because if it works, if this gamble pays off, it won't just be a win for Trump. It'll be a brutal indictment of everything the political class has sold us for years. So yeah, CNN can quote more builders and sprinkle in more fear, but the real story? It's happening underneath the noise. And the common thread, we'll keep calling it out. Because this isn't just a policy debate, it's a reckoning. Stick around, this ride's far from over.